Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. So far, this is the planned date for the return of human beings to space near the moon. So last time was like December of 1972, would have been Apollo 17. Let's zoom on this a little bit, actually. We'll start off about here. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to start off with eyes. Hey, I'm going to ramble on a little bit about NASA and Greek mythology, I think. Here's a little bit of interesting stuff, I guess you could say, about Greek mythology. And something that you'll notice, I suppose, if you had seen Percy Jackson, any of that kind of stuff. They hint towards something, that the gods kind of lose power if you don't pay attention to them. Now that's a strange thing. Let's skip past that for a moment and talk a little bit about Zeus. Zeus has a lot of different children. The interesting thing is that Apollo is the son of Zeus. Apollo is kind of known as the sun god. Apollo also is the twin of Artemis. Artemis is known as the huntress, or sometimes the god of the hunt. Interesting sort of being. Some think might have been firstborn between the two, being, Apollo being the second born. Anyway, some think that she was so incredible at birth that she actually helped deliver her brother. That's funny. What else can I ramble on about Artemis? Well, Artemis in the hunt, and I'm not going to go into too many details type things, kind of had a partner named Orion, and Orion had kind of a terrible fate, let's say. Let's move this up a little bit here. Had a terrible fate and was then, let's say, elevated to a position in the heavens where all could see. And to this day, we can look up into the sky and we can see Orion in the stars. You can see the 3 stars of the belt, and you can see the bow. So yeah, that's really nice of Artemis to do that, or maybe Zeus. Hey, here's something else that's kind of fun. Artemis, if you look at Roman kind of mythology, would be known as Diana, kind of like Wonder Woman. It's also known as Diana. What does this have to do with NASA? Well, NASA really likes symbolism and great adventure. So, symbolism. This particular mission is, or I should say, goes by Artemis. This is where it gets its name. The twin of Apollo. sort of letting this drag out a little bit here. It's been a little while since I've used this pen. I really do like this pen. I kind of have a crazed look almost to this character that I'm drawing. The crew of Artemis 2, there's 4. They're on an Orion class rocket. Now, I already talked about the relationship between Artemis and Orion. I believe the rocket itself is made by Lockheed Martin. And it is a rocket. So they're not going back to the shuttle right now. Perhaps they feel like they've had great success with the rocket programs. Comparatively, they haven't had shuttles since 2011. Some of us have been around for the Challenger and for Columbia, and yeah. What else can I say about the connection to Greek mythology? Well, I think that's kind of the run of it. I've kind of taken my time with this picture, I think. I want there to be kind of a fun look to it. I would have talked about this more than twice. I don't really trust NASA. There's something kind of strange about NASA. In a lot of ways, I think that they are, and this isn't just purely conspiracy, but I look at some of what they do to have high military value. I believe they are a very public way of testing some of their most powerful ICBMs. Since the World War II ended, they have gone out of their way to share their technologies with the military complex. At the end of World War II, they managed to bring on board Wernher von Braun, who was a principal architect of sorts for the V2 rockets during the Second World War. And very much helped out with the Saturn V rockets for the Apollo mission. Anyway, this was under, I guess you would say, Operation Paperclip. Went by other names that we found out. For example, I think the other name that it might have been known as is Operation Overcast. Again, this is not conspiracy, just interesting things. So yeah, what a strange use of technology. For fun, you can look up information about Wernher von Braun, and You will even get a chance to see his grave stone if you wanted to see that. And on it, pretty simple. He has a verse from the Bible that's, I believe it's Psalm 19:1, which has to do with seeing God's handiwork uh, by seeing the firmament. That's a really strange statement to make for someone who works for NASA. The firmament. Let's see. Maybe I'll back this out a little bit. Yeah. Let's go to here, let's say. Okay. Now, I'm trying to pick out a range for the elbow. Let's say here. So yeah, NASA. So far, I don't believe there's any delays going on. I don't believe they are postponing anything. We live in an age now where the average person has access to incredible technology. So it's not just, yeah, I mean, civilians. We have, even with our cell phones, we have the ability to record things. Consider this. The moon is somewhere in the neighborhood of 86 or 864,000 kilometers away, which is 240,000 miles away. It is pretty far away, and this is supposed to be a 10-day mission. It's a lot of distance to travel to get to the moon. So they're going to be traveling pretty fast. So what am I drawing here? This is off the top of my head. This is kind of meant to be Gen Alpha in my brain. I've talked about this before. I think each generation does its very best to not be like the one that raised them. That's just kind of like built in, let's say, where sometimes they want better for that generation. Sometimes they think that the ones that raised them might have made some mistakes. So they kind of go the opposite, not always, but they go the opposite of how they themselves were raised. Now, the opposite, if they continue to do that sort of thing, the opposite to them would be their parents, meaning the people who raise their own children are probably more than likely raising somebody to be more like their own parents, which would be their offspring's grandparents. Sounds confusing, yes? Well, Gen Alpha, in a lot of ways, is kind of like my generation, which I'm actually Gen X. So I probably relate slightly more to them. And this whole business of each generation, that kind of thing, it's a little bit odd, oddly enough. It's only really since the baby boomers that they started doing this kind of thing. Oh, let's see. We're going to have another little scrawny arm, approximately here. And I've done no pre-penciling. So whatever mistakes I make, I have to live with. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the generations. So after the baby boomers, they decided to start with X, and there's a very specific reason for that, which I'm not going to get into, but everything goes in alphabetical order. So my generation, Gen X, is followed by Y, and then is followed by Z. And then it starts all over again with A, which is alpha, and then maybe last year or in that neighborhood, B, which would be beta. And I kind of am under the impression that generation alpha, which is kind of what I'm drawing here, they're going to see a lot of things moving along with AI. So my generation, we kind of grew up hand in hand with personal computers. We got to see massive movement in technology. Which is kind of remarkable, honestly enough. But I think artificial intelligence is going to be a huge game changer. It already is. They're under the impression that they've already reached sort of a general intelligence, which I will be honest with you, I didn't think that we were going to see this. I don't really see a great deal of benefit to this, but oh well. I'm trying to picture in my head here what the Artemis looks like. Maybe I did these support rockets a little too thin. Maybe. I think I got sidetracked here. Let's get closer. Okay. Of course, we're going to have the pinky raised. Are you kidding me? Make sure that these rockets are doing as they're doing. I kind of forgot what I was rambling on about there. No matter. So we have this going on. We have very big eyes going on here too. Let's see if we can do something about this. Oh, let's dip the pen here. I don't dream of being an astronaut. That doesn't seem like something I really want. I'm under the impression that this wonderful little planet that we're on is kind of our main home. And I don't know if I'm really ready to see it abandoned. We're not doing great things with it. We are not treating its citizens very well, its inhabitants. I don't know what would happen out there. If there's other intelligent life, how they're going to look at us. Consider this. In the very least, if human beings have already created life, how is that going to look at us? Looking at our history. How will it view us? I'm going to get the bunny pen here for a moment. And I'm going to choose that orange because that seems to be a very prominent color on this thing. I want that to kind of stand out. Let's go with a little bit more here. By the way, in the Orion class, built by Lockheed Martin, the astronauts would be in here, and you would have well, this would be like the upper stage. Solid rockets would be here. This is the core stage on the outside. So like that a big initial push to get into space. I've kind of, yeah, underneath the capsule part, I believe they call this the European Service Module. And it's from here that life support, oxygen, sort of the stuff that takes care of the humans, is under here. Anyway, let's put the bunny pen away. Now this is something I haven't drawn in a while, so forgive me. My memory for this is going to be a little bit wonky, I think, but We're at 25 minutes. And I have a bunch of things to do today. So I'll try to move this along a little bit. Now, this is something I would have drawn a bunch of times when I was a kid. I would have owned a t-shirt that would have had the version of this on it. So, like, I was very much a part of, I guess you could say, not really a subculture. Well, skateboarding was kind of its own, and still is kind of its own sort of thing. So, like the Misfits, I would have known about them. Even Metallica. But what's funny is I can't recall Glenn Danzig ever on a skateboard. Now, I could be wrong. But I mean, again, you're looking to be different than the generation before you. So, yeah. Now, this isn't going to be exactly like the t-shirt, mind you. I have an idea. So, on the original t-shirts, you would have skulls, but a skull, I should say. But with this one, I'm going to have it winking. So very different. And so I'm kind of like drawing very lightly here, and I will probably go back and add some detail to it. Be a pile of loose teeth, but I'm not going to use them all. Here I'm going to add a different word. And then off to one side. I kind of have a vision in my head, weirdly. Oh, that's my buddy Neville saying that. We are somewhere around 29 minutes into this doodle. What's that, Neville? I know, buddy. I'm kind of going to move along here a little bit quicker, I guess. Cats are funny creatures, I think. Perhaps wanting snacks. I'm not sure what that deal is. Most of the time, I believe the skull and shirts, you'd either see them with like green print or white print. It's, screen printing, right? So the main body of the shirt would be probably black because That's just the way to do it. I'm taking my time with this. I do bring out my skateboard once in a while. And some of the folks that I looked up to were really not that much older than me anyway. Some of them are still at it. Tony Hawk is still riding. I think a lot of us who were into it in some ways are still kind of into it. So that's what I kind of have there. I'm going to jot something down, I think, as well. Let's say this is what I had on my mind. Let's try to speed up this a little bit. It doesn't need to be so neat. Yeah, it's hard not to think about the Space Shuttle Challenger, as well as the Space Shuttle Columbia. There's huge risks with this type of thing, and so that's something you can keep in mind, I suppose. Exploration generally has huge risks. Part of that went a little wacky. That's all right. Okay. I think it's kind of funny that we had certain things that were supposed to, change the landscape. And maybe it happened, and maybe we're living in that change. I remember there was a point when we were supposed to have virtual reality, and every so often they try to bring something out. There's a metaverse type thing, or but it hasn't really been great. Now maybe we've all switched into a matrix and we're living in that high definition world now. Secretly, I doubt it. Well, that's where I'm going with this part of the statement. Oh, I should tell you, I don't follow a script. I know that's probably pretty obvious with the hemming and hawing I do. Okay. Let's do this. I kind of expect very dramatic things with this mission, the Artemis 2. Over the next few years, they're hoping to get people back on the moon. Hey, if you want to see something that's extraordinary, and I think I laughed for probably, a couple of hours. It felt like, I mean, I just chuckled about it now, just thinking about it. Hey, why don't you look up India and them landing uh, on the moon? It is one of the most extraordinary bits of footage with the space race. Oh, it's phenomenal. Anyway, just thinking about it, it's so funny. Now, I'm going to have a $2 word here, I think. And, I mean, it won't be that complicated. It's just going to be a lot going on here. Ooh. Okay. By the way, let's put an asterisk here. And let's put one here. I think that's kind of the main idea that I have. I don't know if I want to fill in this shirt because I'm at almost 40 minutes for this doodle, so I'll do a little bit of outlining, I think, and then I'll think about what I want. Get the thumb there. Warner von Braun. And as I mentioned, on his gravestone, having a verse from the Bible. That is kind of funny. What else do I need? Hey, you know what just popped into my head? The name of the thing that's taking them into space. So of course, like I said, it's an Orion class, but I believe they've nicknamed it the Integrity. That's nice, I guess. Maybe they're finally going to win me over. They're not doing this for me, of course. Can you imagine how extraordinary an undertaking like this really is? So this one, from my recollection, will have a bunch of firsts. So that should be good. Like I said, there's 4 different astronauts on board with this. Let me think. Who? I think it's Henderson. Jeremy Henderson. He's a Canadian, so that's pretty cool. It's like, I think the names are Koch, Glover. Where is it? Hennessy or Henderson? No, it's Hanson, right? And Weissman, maybe. I'll have to think about that. Sometimes my brain skips out on me a little bit. Oh. I think for the most part, this is a strange kind of distraction for what's going on in the world right now. But they've invested huge into this. So I hope everything goes well for all those involved. The Kennedy Space Center. Okay. Well, I think I'm kind of there with it. Almost 45 minutes. We're at 44 minutes roughly now. And I know that's a lot of time to put into a doodle. All right. I think that's going to be it. So yeah, here we have a member of Generation Alpha holding on to the Artemis 2, or I should say the Orion class Integrity. The mission is the Artemis 2, Artemis being the twin sister, pardon me, twin sister to Apollo. The last missions that were had people on the moon wearing a Misfits of Science shirt. And here we have it saying, space travel? Cringe. Those bozo millennials had their VR. Gen Alpha will have interdimensional portals. That's kind of it. You can check out some of the previous things. Of course, right over here, you'll have a link to the last video. Up here, you'll have a means by which to go to my profile and check out some of the other stuff. Chicken Jockey or Pokemon or K-pop Demon Hunters. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. April Fool's Day. Ciao for now.